What's up, everybody? Welcome to this here, our last of the year Grant Teach Me Something episode. I'm so excited about today, where we are going to be showing you how you can retire off of only 10 rentals. It's going to be a how-to. It's going to show you really the reality of how achievable retirement really is if you're actually actively working towards that. If this is your first time watching this, please subscribe. Please turn on the notifications. We're just shooting out tons and tons of great content to you guys every week so that you can learn and better yourself here. So we will get right back on the other side of the break and get right into it. I look forward to talking to you.
Teach me something.
And here we are with the fantastic Mr. Ryan Harper.
What's up?
What's up, dude?
Well, you know, you gotta love Pat and his voice of his rendition of the Grant Teach Me Something. But you know, it's the end of the year and it is my song. So
Hey,
Grant, teach me something.
Yes.
That's not really a song. It's more of three notes.
It's a song in my heart.
It's a song in your heart.
It's the song of
you
my
know
heart.
what's funny though? I actually went back to the old videos just to see when we started that.
Okay.
And it was like episode 1, nothing. Episode 2, there was something brewing. And by episode 3 of the first,
We had
episode
a
3 of Grant Teach
consistent
Something,
song.
that's when that's when
took
we
life.
struck gold. You know, that's when the gold of Grant Teach Me Something song came to life.
Excellent. Well, you know, now anytime I see anybody anywhere, like I'll be walking through San Antonio and Dan Diaz will be somewhere and I'll just hear in the background, Grant, teach me something. Turn around.
So what you're saying is you're famous.
That's basically what I'm trying to get at. All right, so here's the thing. You know, so many of us, we're here in real
The end of the
estate
year.
for retirement. Yeah. But the reason why I want to talk about that is because we are at the end of the year. And so we need to start planning, right? We need to start thinking about what our next year is going to look like, what we want our goals to be. And come the first of the year, I'm actually going to walk you through kind of what your annual meeting should look like, what your annual meeting should be looking at for your goals for 2019, that kind of thing. But in order for that to really work best, what I want you guys to have is I want you to have some goals set already, kind of in your mind. And that's going to be kind of what we talk about today. One of the cool things about how real estate works is that it is surprisingly, it doesn't take as much as you may think to retire. And that's what I want to talk about today, is that a lot of people think, because they see guys like us talking about this huge volume of houses that we buy every year, like that you have to do that in order to retire.
Right. And you know, and I'll interject just because something that was posted on Facebook yesterday, which was so awesome, and it goes back to the whole idea of just taking action. So I don't know if it's Laura or Lara, but Krimble, Johnson Krimble,
Yeah.
she was posting in the Roughneck group about how she started watching the Grant Teach Me Something episodes, took action, and now she has like $1 million portfolio, just doing what you're teaching and what you're talking about and what
so
you're
cool.
providing. And it's so awesome to hear those stories. So if as a Christmas gift to Grant, if you have similar things like that and you are able to take action and take the knowledge that he is providing, please let us know in the comments.
I would
just
love
because you know, I don't want to say this is a thankless job, but at the end of the day, you have Grant, you have Ryan, and then you have Mr. Trey.
Travion!
So,
Woo!
you know, it's just us in the studio here. So if the show this year has made an impact, please let us know. Please give Grant some love, and we love getting those shouts. And if you know Laura, sorry.
Yeah.
Give her a shout out, give her some love, because that is epically awesome.
It is very cool, and we've gotten a lot of that feedback, and I'll tell you, that's what keeps us going. It really is what fires us up, man. We love seeing you guys succeed on this stuff, so it's been a lot of fun.
And the reason I want to bring that up is mainly to go type back to the goal setting, and this is the end of the year, and you do have 2019 right around the corner.
Right.
So less than a week from today, you have Christmas, and then 2 weeks you have the New Year. So you basically have 2 weeks right now where most people are doing nothing.
Right.
Like it's family, it's shopping, it's coasting. This is great opportunity to plan, and that's
Thank you.
segue back
Yeah,
to
that's
you.
a fantastic segue because it's so true. I mean, I'll tell you, my office is shut down all next week and half of the week after that. Like nobody's coming in, like it's, but I do plan on this is a good time to be mulling over what we want our future to look like. And what we want our future to look like is very important. I think a lot of people, a common mistake is that we get in as entrepreneurs or visionaries or whatever, we get into this business and we just start firing on all cylinders, and the idea in our head essentially is, well, if I just keep working really hard, eventually I'm going to get what I want. Well, what do you want? I want to buy some houses. What does that mean to you? And so there's not really that kind of defined, measurable, attainable goal. And what I have found in showing people this method of what I'm about to go through, this is a way to retire off of real estate. But what I have found is that one of the feedbacks that I get most often is they're like, oh man, like I didn't realize it was that little to meet what I wanted to meet. I didn't realize what I wanted, right? And that's what we've got to figure out is, what do you want? So I want to ask you guys this question because I want you to comment this in the comments, and I'm going to read through it here in just a second. But what if I was to ask you that in how many years from now do you want to be able to roll over in bed, take a look at your alarm clock and say, you know what, I'm making enough money, I'm not gonna go in. I'm just done. I'm gonna live off of this, right? What is that dollar amount to you monthly? And how many years from now is that moment? Okay? So please comment. What is the dollar amount that you want monthly? And how many years from now do you want that to happen? Do you have that in mind? Is that something that you had ever thought of before?
$1 million.
$1 million a month. That's a good year, man.
It just goes back to, I am not a good person to ask. The reason being is if you watched the show last week, I am highly work motivated, career oriented, and like I'm not married, don't have a social life, I don't have a girlfriend. Like when I get stressed, I work. When I get lonely, I work. When I get bored, I work. So in my mind, I am money motivated,
right?
But it's more like.
But your motivation is not to work to retire.
My
right?
motivation is not looking at my bank account every day going, "Oh, cool, I've got $1 million." It's more like I want more.
Right. And I feel you. And there's going to be certain people like that, like Scott Horn, who was on this episode 3 or 4 weeks ago. We brought Scott Horn on. Brilliant attorney. I was partners with him for many years. But he should have retired years ago. But he just loves to work.
But for the example of this purpose, let's say $10,000. I want to make $10,000 a month because I think $120,000 a year, let's just say post-tax, whatever. Right. So that means I probably need to make $1 million a month. But like, if I could get 10 grand in my bank account every month, that is a decent lifestyle. Right. It's not.
And how many years from now would you say that you would want that to happen? Like if you were thinking about it.
If I was actually thinking about it, being where I'm at now, I would say in the next 8 years.
Okay, awesome. I love that answer. Have we gotten any people chiming in yet on their answers?
John Alvarez, $300 a month, 3 years from now. Anthony Madrid, $8,000 a month in 5 years.
Wait, you said 30,000 a month or 300? $300 a month?
300,000.
Every month?
Every month.
Okay.
Sohail, 10,000, and he doesn't say a timeline. Okay. 10,000 in about 10 years from Rajesh. Isaiah, 10,002, 10,005, 4,000 now.
Awesome.
So
4,000 now. Yeah, that's awesome.
But I would say 10,000 is a great public indication of everybody. And I would like to say that I said 10,000 before I looked at the comments, so I've got a pulse on the community.
So the other thing that I will show you, with that being said, is the average answer that I receive is going to be the one that I go off of today. My average answer is $10,000 in 10 years. That's typically what people who are thinking very kind of long-term and forward-thinking about this, taking a realistic approach to what real estate really is. My average answer right now is about $10,000 in 10 years, and we saw that hit pretty close. You said 8 years. We had some people saying 2 or 3, and of those people, you will see how I can show you how to achieve that. I mean, I got $10,000 a month. I'm such a bragger. I got $10,000 a month within the first 6 to 8 months of my career. Like, if you push hard enough, you can get that. but results aren't typical. I should, like they say at the bottom of it.
And real quick, before we go forward, just because I saw it pop up in the comments, Angel, welcome. He found us on YouTube. He just saw this
Awesome.
channel. So,
What's up, Angel?
hey, thanks for joining us. We've got a ton of content both on
Yeah.
Facebook and YouTube.
Make sure to subscribe.
Make sure to subscribe, turn on those notifications, and join in the comments. Same goes for everybody in Facebook. Anyway.
So the average answer being 10,000. Now, I want to be really clear because I think a lot of people get held up on this one point. When I'm saying like retire, I'm talking be able to retire. You don't have to stop working, but like you've hit that goal of like, okay, well at any point in time, if I stop loving what I'm doing, I'm not going to do it anymore, and that's okay because I'm making enough money for that to be the case. And that answer is usually 10,000 in 10 years. So that's going to be what we go off
And again,
of.
I think that is a very attainable number. If we think about and that's very, laissez-faire, ceteris paribus, all things the same right now.
Right.
The reality is when you factor in inflation, when you factor in politics, that's probably way lower than it needs to be.
Can I give Rai Rai a lot of credit right now in that I saw his eyes and they have not gone to the screen, the teleprompter, or up here, but look at our next. Oh, we got to factor in inflation.
Kudos to Ryan for
Kudos
the
to
easy
Ryan.
segue.
Yeah, that's super wise because a lot of people don't factor that in.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think about that. It's like, hey, if I've got 10,000, that's the number that you have in your head of buying power for today. And 10,000 of today's money is not going to buy the same amount of stuff in 10 years. So if we are shooting for a 10-year goal here, then we need to factor in inflation as well. Now, as you'll see on this graph here, the Fed typically, what they want is they want a 2% inflation rate. But historically, we average about 3% in this modern era. And why I say the modern era is that if you look, like we've got, if you see on this graph, we've got some stuff all the way back, and I guess I can zoom in here for you. Going back to like 1970s, 1980s, we see these massive hikes of 14% inflation. But then from like 1982 on, we're basically hovering that 3% line. You can see, anybody want to guess what happened in 08? You can see some big dips there.
Right.
But overall, this is our inflation in the modern era. So we're going to factor that in our numbers. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to, I don't know what's happening here. We're going to completely botch this. What we're going to do is we're going to factor in the, I don't know what I did here. I've never used Keynote on my iPad before. Anyway, we're going to factor in that inflation rate, and we're going to use a calculator to tell us what is the future buying power of $10,000 today. Okay? And apparently, I'm not going to be able to show you guys all my jazzy stuff that I had for this. Let me quit out of that and see if I can get into it
Do you
again.
have internet?
I'm on the Wi-Fi here, but I'll turn it off.
Well, that's your problem.
That's my problem. Let me turn off. Oh, here we go. I think this is going to work now. Or not. So, whatever. We're super professional around here. I'm going to blame this on Travion because he has a camera. All right. So anyway, we're going to factor that in. And fortunately, I know what I'm trying to say here. You may just not have the visuals to go along with it, which is $10,000 today is equivalent to about $14,000 in 10 years. In other words, if you want to buy the same, if you want the buying power of today's 10,000 bucks, in 10 years, you will need to have $14,000 to do that. So that's going to be what we use when we're talking about these numbers here. So I just remembered I have a backup plan, so here we're going to go over to that. Let me show you that right here, where $10,000, I'm going to use the annual inflation rate of 3%. We're going to say in 10 years. Now, this link is not at /NTAREI. I'm actually using a slideshow that I had prepared from there. But we will put the link in the comments there. $10,000 in today money would be $13,439. So that's what we're going to use. So for this example, we're going to use 10 years and $14,000 as our goal number. That's what we're going to be hitting for. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to be doing kind of a more so of a bird's eye, more so of a, this is your general line of sight for how you can get yourself to that number. And you noticed I said we can do this with 10 rentals. And eventually, that is the truth. But the idea that I need you guys to be thinking about when you're trying to plan this out for yourself is we're going to have a formula that we're going to go off of, and it goes back to this formula that I showed you a second ago. I want to retire in X years. I want to be making Y monthly, which means I will buy this many houses annually and this many houses quarterly.
So that right there is something that everybody should probably write down.
Correct.
Or screenshot.
Exactly.
And then go towards these next 2 weeks. So going back to I think it was George. Let me look. Anyway, the gentleman that was saying about the 300,000 a month.
Yeah.
That go for it.
Right.
I mean, obviously, don't feel like there's limitations. I'm not.
Absolutely not.
You know, if you can put a plan in action, go for it. The only thing there, though, is if you're going for 300, make sure you have attainable goals and strategies and direction to get there. I mean, go
Absolutely.
for it. I would never. I'd never want to put it out there that Grant or Ryan or Propelio is trying to limit anybody's expectations or
That
whatever.
said, though, I do want to take the moment to harp on realism, right?
Yeah.
If you told me you want $300,000 coming in by next year, that's not realistic. You're going to burn out, and you're going to leave this industry. The number one reason why people leave the real estate industry is unrealistic expectations, and we've talked about that in several episodes leading up to this. So we want to be real with ourselves. We want goals that somewhat scare us, but we have a clear path to attaining them, and that's kind of where we're going to go from here. So I have an admonition. I have to admit something. I said with only 10 rentals.
Yep.
It was a little bit of a hook. It's a little bit to get you in here. We're going to end up with only 10 rentals, but to get there, to get to this retirement number, we're actually going to leverage owner financing and more properties in order to achieve the retirement numbers that you're looking for based off of only a few rentals.
And you know what, though? I felt like there was a hook coming because Grant is a huge proponent of the owner finance subject to seller finance model. And if you've watched the 50 plus episodes we've done in the past, he doesn't really talk about rentals that much.
Right.
So I felt
You're
like there was
something's fishy here.
going on.
Yeah.
Because we even did a video with Daniel back when about owner finance, rentals. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, what is he doing?
So here's my position on rentals. Rentals are not what everybody thinks they are, okay? Everybody sees, and this is what I think has happened, everybody sees that rich people have rentals, and they assume that rich people got rich off of rentals. And I'm here to tell you, that's not the case.
Right.
That didn't happen, okay? Now, Daniel will argue with me on that, and that's cool. And I'll have to back down and correct and say, in my experience of the people that I've ever known, I have never met anybody who went from zero to hero based off of rentals, okay? There's always something else that feeds in. So the mistake that I think gets made, again, is a false correlation. Rich people have rentals, therefore people got rich off of rentals, and that's not the case. You get rich, then you get rentals.
Jeremiah jumps in. Owner financing is for cash flow. Rentals is for taxes.
Right? Yeah, and there's something to be said for that. So that leads into the next point of rentals have their place. I talk crap about rentals all the time. Like he said, we did a video of like, owner finance, rental, you know. Yes, but I only talk crap about it to try and reset people's expectations for what they are. Rentals have a wonderful position in your portfolio, partially for tax relief, partially for the appreciation that you get to appreciate off of these properties, and partially for the fact that it's a long-term, you get that income for as long as you want. Whereas if we create an owner-financed property with somebody, what's the longest that we're going to have that income coming in?
I mean, the longest would be 30 years.
30 years. That's the longest we're going to have that income because of Dodd-Frank, we don't amortize our loans for more than 30 years.
The pause was because I've done enough of these shows to know that some people do a 20-year note, some people do a 25-year note, and I'm like trying to think, okay, what does Grant put his notes on?
Yeah.
But the answer is 30 years.
The answer is 30. The longest you're going to get that. So if you, as I am, are young enough that you plan to live more than 30 years, you've got to kind of have something else in your portfolio to pick up when all these cash flows start dropping off. Right? I love owner financing. It is a phenomenal, truly passive income, which is not what a rental is. But that owner financing income will run out. So do we have any questions yet so far? Anything that's popping into your mind? If so, please, I like to make these a two-way street. Please chime in. Let us know if you've got questions. And again, comment, share this, like it, subscribe. If you're into what we're talking about, support us. It's a big, again, it's a labor of love in a lot of parts. And let's not act like we don't get benefits from it on a business aspect too. We do. But we like helping you guys out. So help us out in return. Okay, so back to our example. Now we're going to start talking about a little bit in the formula range. So when we start talking about formulas, this is what I want you to work off of. And forgive me because this is my backup plan, so the slides aren't perfectly squared up. But in this example, we want to make in 10 years, we want to make $14,000 a month. Now, I am going to divide that $14,000 by 350. And I put the CF here because it's cash flow, because in the owner-financed world, we're typically averaging about $350 a month on a wraparound mortgage. Got a lot doing more, got some doing less, but 350 is kind of a good mark to go off of. So if we take our total amount needed at our exit date and divide it by 350, that's going to tell us how many homes we need making $350 a month in 10 years in order to meet our goal. And in this case, 14,000 divided by 350 means that in 10 years, we need 40 homes making $350 a month.
So I'm a little confused. Are we talking about rentals or are we talking about owner finance? Because we're talking about in 10 years making $14,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Now, is that $14,000 a month off the 10 rentals, or are we putting pause on the rental conversation altogether? And right now we're looking at, in 10 years, I want to have $14,000 a month, and we're looking at $350 cash flow from an owner finance, so I need 40 homes owner finance.
That one. We're talking about right now, we're going to build our initial income, the initial amount of money that we're looking to get. We're going to build that using owner financing, okay? Because it is passive, because you can count on that cash flow that's coming in. It is a lot of things that rentals aren't, but people think they are. So for all the reasons that people think they want rentals, they typically really want the owner financing cash flow instead, with the exception of things like we mentioned, like tax benefits and appreciation, that kind of thing. But even appreciation has its arguments. We'll get into that another day. Okay, so my recommendation in this one version of this plan of how to get you to retirement, in 10 years, we want $14,000 a month coming in, so we need 40 homes to do that. We need 40 homes to make us $350 a month. Now, I am going to recommend using creative financing to get there. So now, if we look at that formula, this is the formula that you want to write down. If you're taking notes today, this is the formula you want. You want your adjusted dollar per month, which, as you see, I did in purple to match the color coding that I did in the original slide. Your adjusted dollar per month. So in our case, we're using 14,000. You're going to divide that by 350, and that is going to give you the number of homes that you need to have in X years, your goal date. So as you're watching this, again, I've color coded these items to help you kind of connect the dots, but that's the formula.
So for I think it was George. Sorry. But he wants 300,000, so he would take 300,000 divided by 350, and that's the amount of homes he would need in
however many years
he wanted to do, that he would need to take down at lightning fast to get to that monthly income doing owner finance.
He said 300,000?
300,000.
300,000 divided by 350 would mean that he would need to have 857 houses
in whatever timeline he was talking about.
In whatever timeline he was talking about.
Okay. It's not undoable.
It's not, no.
You just have to
I know
have a
plenty of guys
team
who have that kind of portfolio, but it doesn't happen in 2 years. It doesn't happen in 5 years. That takes time to plan that out. The guys that I know with portfolios like that have been doing this for at least 15 years. Okay, right. So just for proper expectations there. And these are big dogs whose names you know. Okay, so we look at that example. So we've got 14,000 divided by 350. That gives us 40 homes. So then what we're going to do is we're going to divide the number of homes we need by our timeline, and that tells us how many homes per year we need to buy.
And because I can see where the math is going, because we're only looking at the monthly rate, we're not looking at the lifeblood or the lifetime value of that house. We're only looking for that monthly cash flow, because I'm looking at 4 homes a year, and you're talking about 30 years. Well, it's like, well, if I only have to do 4 homes a year, well, some of those houses I've already made several $1,000s off of, whereas like if I just bought
by
one
the time
today,
retirement hits, you mean?
What's that?
What do you mean?
By the time the 10-year mark hits,
Uh-huh.
like there may be a house that I just bought that month,
right?
and
versus a house that you bought 9
at the
years
very
ago.
beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. And we'll address that because
Okay,
that's part
sorry,
of
my
that's
bad.
part of the deal. No, that's a good question. That's part of the deal. So this is where the first aha moment typically comes in. This is where the first eyes wide open typically happen, is because you're like, oh, in order to get a $14,000 cash flow, purely cash flow, I just need to have 4 homes a year, right? So let that be a relief to you.
It's 1 a quarter.
It's a house a quarter.
So like for the people that have full-time careers that are, having a job, a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Exactly.
You can have a 9 to 5 and be able to do this thing, this strategy, 1 house a quarter.
Yep.
In the grand scheme of things, is not
It is
that
not a lot.
crazy of a sounding goal.
That's why I like to say, I'm not saying it's easy, but I am saying it's achievable.
That's why I was very choosy with my words.
Yeah. It's not easy, but it's very achievable.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect plan for somebody that's working a 9 to 5 and maybe doesn't want to quit it. Now, for all of you guys, watching, here's the formula that we're using. Number of homes at goal date divided by goal date equals the number of homes to buy per year. Okay? So this will give you your number. So write that down or screenshot it or whatever. So obviously, and then you take your formula of number of homes per year and divide that by 4, and that's how many homes you need to buy per quarter. Mm-hmm. I want you to live in a quarterly world. That's going to be part of what we talk about the first week of January, is how to properly track our goals and that kind of thing, right? We want to live in a quarterly year or a quarterly world. So in this example, 1 home a quarter will net $14,000 a month in net cash flows and a portfolio of 40 homes in 10 years. Okay? Just off of the owner financing. So again, things that we need to consider is that we are only going to get a 30-year note off these guys. So Q1 2018, if you bought a house, is only going to last you till Q1 2048.
Right.
That income for that $350 a month. So we're going to factor that in. And we want to do a debt buy down as quickly as we can on these properties.
For the layman like myself,
Mm-hmm.
can you please give me elevator debt buy down?
Absolutely.
Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we want to do on this is that if you notice on this picture, we've got typically like a 22-year note that we're taking over sub 2. So if you bought it 2018, that thing would be paid off in 2040. Okay? So like in this picture, you see the red cross going through the $400 that we would have been paying to Wells Fargo for 22 years. Mm-hmm. And after that, that 406, whereas in previous episodes I've talked about that's your money. Now you get a raise, you get more money, right? That 406 you used to be paying to Wells Fargo for the right to have this house now becomes 406 going into your bank account every month. But we're not going to use that 406. That 406 we're going to use to buy down the debt of one of our other properties. In other words, we're just going to, instead of paying it to Wells Fargo for this house, we're going to pay it to Wells Fargo for that house.
So this is very similar to the Dave Ramsey thing of getting
debt
out
snowball.
of getting out of debt and of your credit card. So if I have a credit card and I'm spending and I throw $1,000 a month to pay that credit card off, once it's done, don't stop spending that $1,000. Don't be like, cool, I got $1,000 more in pocket. Take that $1,000 and put it towards the next credit card, and say that credit card you were paying $200 a month, and now you're paying $1,200, and now when that's done, instead of going, cool, I've got $1,200, then you take that $1,200 and put it to the next debt.
Yep.
And like you said, and I'm guessing that's a Dave Ramsey term, the snowball thing.
Debt snowball, that's a Dave Ramsey term.
So I clearly have no clue who Dave Ramsey is. I've just heard enough in
No,
this
you're absolutely
world.
right, yeah.
But you're saying take that same strategy towards your own owner finance properties.
It's a great way to accelerate the payoffs of all these other assets.
Yeah. One thing I do want to point out is a lot of the perks of being in real estate investing is being able to have mailbox money and have that cash flow and have a lifestyle of a real estate investor. Doing this is with the mindset to retire, not necessarily, hey, let's go partied up today.
Right, and keep in mind though, that we are never touching that $350 a month that we wanted to keep for our own income. Mm-hmm. So we've achieved the $14,000 a month. That's not going to change. It's not like we're taking money out of the $14,000 that we wanted to keep to do the debt buy down.
See, I didn't catch that. So
No.
you're saying, so if you were normally taking the $350 and pocketing that and going to the gun range and going on your vacation,
still gonna do that.
even though you're going to get $406 tomorrow.
Right.
It's not like now I'm going to make a bigger vacation. You're still
Right.
going to go on the same vacation you're doing
Exactly.
before. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
didn't catch that.
So
Hope you caught that.
let's look back at this picture. This bottom line shows, hey, we're getting $350 a month for the next 30 years. Now, 22 years from now, where that red X is in the middle, 22 years from now, we will be paying off an underlying lien, which means that our cash flow would technically go up by 406. But like you said, rather than doing a more expensive vacation, we're just not going to touch that 406, that extra 406 that we used to be using to pay for debt. We're going to continue paying for debt. It's just not going to be the debt on that house. It's going to be the debt on another house. And we retain that $350 a month. So we retain our $14,000 a month. That doesn't get touched.
So is this a good stopping point to
Sure.
take a break? But before
Absolutely.
we go to break, I do want to point out, because Jason Ratcliffe, he has a great comment on Facebook. He said, it won't last that long if they sell. Absolutely. There are hiccups to this strategy as like if they sell. But guess what? If they sell, you've got a huge influx of cash.
Right.
And I'll let you address that when we come back from the break.
Yeah, well, let's do address that because that is a really good
It's a
topic
good
of discussion.
point. It's a great point.
All right, we'll see you on the
we'll
other
see you right
side.
back. Right back.
All right, so we do want to address
Jason.
here, who said, well, what happens if they sell? That's a very good point. And the thing is in our world, in the retail world, in the I bought from Ebby Holiday world, people sell their house every 4 to 6 years. That's typically how it goes. In the owner financing world, people 95% of the time, they pay the loan through maturity. It's a very odd, different dynamic, but it's the truth. So you do get to count on this longer term cash flow much more than you would like if this was a retail sale, because people stay in those houses. The owner financed buyers stay in those houses. And like you stated, we're going to have an equity position in this. So if they sell it, they're going to give us an influx of cash. So here's an example. We're in 5 years, the property that we bought this quarter, in 5 years, the underlying lien will be bought down to like 57. Our wrap would be, we're using an example of a $100,000 house. That's typically what I like to do. Our
It's a
wrap
creepy picture, by the
will
way.
be bought down to, it's the future, will be bought down to 86. So we'll have an equity position of $29,000. So if somebody, that person, were to sell their house, we would get a check in the mail for $28,000, and that's not a bad day.
No.
We can use that to buy down debt. That would be my recommendation. Or you can, be like every other Facebook guru and go put a down payment on a lease of a Lamborghini and talk about how awesome you are.
Or that could be a down payment toward a rental, not to fast forward everything.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's what we would want. We want to put that back into the real estate, right? And this happens. I had this happen back in, I guess the last time this happened for me was July. Somebody sold their house, and I showed up to work one day with a check on the table for $57,000 that we didn't expect to come in.
Yeah, so it's like an oh darn moment, but not
like,
really
oh, man.
darn. Oh darn, I have to take a check for 20 grand.
I know, because you hate losing your cash flow, but you get more money. So where you're going to be in 5 years by doing this plan is you're going to have a $500,000 net worth, you're going to have a 20 home portfolio, and you're going to have about $7,000 in passive income. So my question to you is, don't you think that's the kind of person that the banks want to lend to? Mm-hmm. Right? We got a good for Trey back there. Yeah. That's the kind of person that banks like lending to, right? So you have something that you are now marketable to start going out and looking at maybe buying some houses with rentals. Right. So where are you going to be in 10 years? Well, that property that you bought this quarter will be bought down to about $45,000. The wrap that you sold to your wrap buyer will still have an $81,000 balance because they're paying off so much more slowly than you're paying your debt off, because their debt's at 9.5% and yours is typically 4.5%. And you'll have a 40-house portfolio with an average of about $30,000 per property in equity. So in 10 years, by buying a house a quarter that's averaging $350 a month in cash flow and is a $100,000 house, you're going to have a 40 home portfolio, a $1.2 million net worth, and $14,000 in passive income.
And I don't know about you, but I would love to have a 40 home portfolio. Yes, I caught
Thank you for
that.
not letting me get away with that.
Yeah, I caught it.
I kind of paused and I was like, I think he's going to let me have it. All right,
No,
cool.
but one thing I do want to point out though is, say you're doing this business and you are, that first year you do buy one a quarter. Chances are the next year you're probably going to buy 5 that year, or at least 5.
Right.
If not, maybe 1.5 houses a quarter. And by year 3, year 4, you're going to pick up steam and you're going to pick up the energy and the love of this game.
Right.
And so chances are it is not going to be for a quarter, and you're going to blow out this 10-year goal very quickly.
Well, again,
but to keep it at a very attainable level,
Right.
I could see this model.
Well, and I think the big thing to note on this is the reason why I'm using these numbers is that my average answer is $10,000 in 10 years. And so my response is, okay, well, if you want $10,000 in 10 years, this is all it's going to take to get there.
Right.
If you want $10,000 in 2 years, it's a different story.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a house a quarter anymore. Right? That's whatever, 5 or 10 houses a quarter to get there. Right? So it all works out in this equation if you're running it with your own goals. Again, I'll tell you, I had 40 homes within about my first 8 months to 9 months of doing this business. I take that back. It was about a year and maybe I got to 40 within a year and a half. Maybe it took me a little over a year. Anyway, that's not 10 years, right? But I have different goals. I have different goals of what we're trying to achieve here. So part of this equation is, look, if you want these numbers in these years, this is how we're going to do it. I've got a house a quarter. For your first 5 years, that's when you've got that net worth, that $7,000 in passive income, that bankability at that point in time. And I want you to start picking up rentals. Now, I misspoke in this slide, and again, we're using my backup slides, so don't hate me too much. I said medium home right now is $175. That was more the right answer when I made this, but it wasn't the right answer even then. But I'm going to use an example of about $175,000 house for a rental as kind of being a good rental to get, right? Most, even if you look at like the hedge funds cap at 200 or 250 at the max. When you're in those rental ranges, we like those C-class properties. We like those $175,000 houses. I'm going to say that your net rent, and again, guys, we've got 50 minutes to go through a very complex topic. So I know that you will want to jump on me for these next numbers, but we have to just kind of decide on some numbers and go with them if we're going to have any kind of progress in this, right?
And real quick, I just wanted to have some clarity for Juan, because he was asking about where that check comes from. Yes, when you have a wraparound mortgage, and the person that you would owner finance the property to, say they sell that house to somebody else, well, they're going to make whole the debt to you.
Yeah, so the title company that closes that new deal is going to send you a check for whatever your equity position was in that deal.
So they're going to send a check to the original, say the first underlying lien is still there. They're going to pay those guys off, and then whatever debt's owed to you, they're going to pay you off, and that's where that check comes from.
Right. It's a great point because we've got in owner financing we have 3 profit centers. We have the down payment is one profit center. We have cash flow is one profit center, and we have equity as one profit center. So if you buy a house and you have debt on that house of $70,000, say, and then you owner finance to somebody for $100,000, they give you a $10,000 down payment, so there's one profit center. So now you have a loan with them for $90 and a loan to your bank for $70, so you've got $20,000 in equity, in note equity, and then whatever the difference is from your debt payment and their debt payment, which is typically about $350 a month, that's your cash flow. So you get paid on all of those. So in 5 years, I want you to start leveraging the fact that you have this actual true passive income, which people want rentals to be but are not, and I want you to leverage that into starting to build your rental portfolio. So if we say that we want a $175,000 house, I'm going to say that net rent, maybe you're going to be able to get $1,400 after taxes and insurance on it coming in. And assuming your loan is for the median, your principal would look something like this with the bank. $175,000, 6%, 20-year amortization, and your payment's going to be $1,253. So if you're just kind of learning everything right now, stop listening for a second. If you are a little bit more advanced and you're looking at those numbers and you're like, but Grant, that doesn't quite, let me explain just a little bit further for you. When I said medium home right now, what really I should be talking about is that would be like your loan amount on your house. You may have bought this for 20 or 200 or 225, something like that, but your loan might be 175 on the house, and that would be where your net rents are kind of where they're at. But again, for the sake of just getting through this, we've just got to kind of decide on some numbers and stick to them so that you can see how those work, and these are the numbers we're going to stick to.
Yeah, and this is a perfect example of why, going back to the original conversation of the rich guys already can buy the rentals to make money, and if you're just getting started, it's hard to make money as a rental, because if you're looking at these numbers and say your net cash flow from this property is $1,400 and your cash out is $1,250, that's only $150 to put in your pocket.
Correct.
And then when you take into account the toilets, the roofs, the ACs, the all the other et ceteras that come with being a landlord, $150 a month is most likely not going to cover all that craziness.
If you need to make money on a monthly basis from your rental, the rent rate needs to be double what your debt is on that property. That's a good rule of thumb to stick to. Otherwise, you're just covering the cost of the rental or losing money, but having like equity appreciate. If you need that cash flow to be significant for you, the rent needs to be about double what your debt payment is. So we're not going to count on that. We're not going to count on any income from any of these rentals until they are paid off. That's going to be my goal for you. So we're going to use this number. Again, typical banking terms, $175,000 loan, 6% is typical with a bank loan, 20-year amort's typical. That would be a $1,253 payment. So if we want $14,000 a month, we've got to have 10 of these rentals bringing us in money. Now, by the way, the thing that I didn't talk about, when we're talking about our owner finance deals, we're getting a down payment in as well. We're getting like a $7,000 net down payment, because if we got a $10,000, we sold it for 100, got 10, we might pay $3,000 to a realtor for bringing us the lead. We net 7 from it.
And if you're a landlord, well, I get a security deposit, but guess what? You don't get to keep that.
Right, that security deposit goes back. So if we've bought a whole bunch of houses, I haven't even talked about using the down payment yet. I've talked about using our cash flow for everything. So this is the numbers that you would get on one of these properties, your total net income from a property where you may have bought it sub 2 and sold it on a wrap, and you literally only had like $20,000 worth of equity in this deal, is going to net you about $172,000 over time, which is awesome. That's why we're building our retirement off of this. But we need to use that $7,000 down payment. So if we got 40 houses at $7,000 a pop, that's $280,000 that we've gotten in just in down payments that we can use to buy down debt and get us into these free and clear rentals.
Because I know you like to answer questions as they come. There is a thought process by John, and he was saying, and I know the answer to this, but I want to say it, and then I want to pop off the answer, and then you can answer it as well. But what about property taxes? They increase every year. The $350 a month decreases every year.
It doesn't. Oh, sorry. Dang it.
Then you need to add X amount for property taxes to keep the $350. The answer to that is it's not your house. You don't pay property taxes because you're not the owner of the house. Is that the right answer?
That is the right answer.
Boom!
Because the owner of the house pays for taxes and insurance. That is the beauty of owner financing. And I really recommend you should go back and watch these previous Grant Teach Me Something episodes, especially with this season, because we kind of lead you down to help you understand all of these principles. But that's why I love owner financing, is because we sell the house, we collect our mortgage. Our mortgage is a fixed rate. Taxes and insurance go up, but who pays for taxes and insurance but the person who actually owns the house? If you got a loan from Wells Fargo, does Wells Fargo get less cash flow every month when your taxes go up? No. You just have to pay more next year than you were paying the last year. Wells Fargo still sits on their nice, happy, fat rears and makes all the money that they wanted.
Well, they gotta be fat.
Well, they're fat cats. That's how it works.
I got it.
But to go down that road, I wasn't going to, again, trying to condense this all. I'm not counting for depreciation because with rentals, you're also going to get appreciation, which typically outpaces our depreciation. I'm going to account for a 6% appreciation, which is something that we like to see in real estate. We aren't going to pull any money from those until they're all free and clear, and we're going to buy right and have our rentals fixed up and raise rents and get extra revenues for those capital expenditures So again, there's a lot of complication that goes into the rentals for
Yeah.
long term, but these are just kind of some.
And the one thing we got to keep in mind when we're talking about real estate, the thing about real estate is no two deal is the same. And when we're teaching a class like this, you have to, I don't want to use the word dumb down, but you have to summarize into an average type deal.
Right.
So yes, please, by all means, jump in the comments and type in the but or the what ifs or this or that. But the reality is there's so
many variables.
So many
we just
variables.
got to pick a track and go with it.
Yeah.
So on, if we look back at our down payments, we would have $280,000 in down payments by our goal year, which gives us enough to pay off 4 of our houses. So if we, in 10 years, right, that's our goal date, if we in 10 years have $280,000 that allows us to buy down 4 of our properties, well, we're going to buy off those first 4 properties that we paid for, and that gives us an extra, in this example, $406 times 4 that we're going to use to do extra debt buy down on our first rental. So now, even though our first rental's payment was only supposed to be $1,250 or something like that, we're going to give them the $1,250 they wanted, and we're going to give them $1,624 more. So in 10,
Which is more.
So in 10 years, we're going to, again, just to recap, have an underlying lien on that first house we bought of $45,000. Our wrap is going to be about $81,000. So our equity in 10 years on that first property will be about $36,000 on a $100,000 house. We're going to have 40 houses in our portfolio. Each one of them is going to have a $30,000 property and equity. And we're going to have 4 homes free and clear, which opens up $1,624 a month of debt buy down, again, on top of the $350 a month that you are still keeping to take your girlfriend out on a date and to go on vacation and to do all the things that you want to do with your cash flow.
So maybe I wasn't listening or maybe I wasn't paying attention, but when do you start buying the rentals? Is that
Year
just
5.
Year 5. Okay, so maybe I missed that.
Yeah, so when we got to the point where
Even though I'm right here.
when we got to the point where we had that $7,000 a month coming in, and I said, don't you think banks think you're bankable now? That's when we start using banks to buy up some rentals.
Got it.
That's when we start peeking over. It's when we become bankable off of purely the cash flow and passive income and stuff that we've done on that. So if you look at these rentals, we're going to be able to use all of the debt buy down to where ultimately we're paying $3,000 a month on that first rental that we bought Q1 of 2023, which is 5 years from now. I should really say Q4. That's only going to take us 10 more years to buy it completely off and have a free and clear rental, which then opens up whatever rent was coming in from that property as more debt payments. Now, with the appreciation, with the fact that rents should be raised over each year, that means that likely by 2033, 10 years from that point of buying the property, that rent would have gone up to like $2,500, right? Instead of the $1,400 that we were. So now we've got a lot more that we can put towards our debt buy down on the next property. And to skip to the end, to just summarize all of this for you, to show you what that's going to mean, your first rental is going to get paid off by 2033, which adds another $314,000 to your net worth, likely another $2,500 to buy down your other properties because of the rent increase. So you're going to use that with your other free and clears to buy down rental 2 to free and clear in only 1 more year by 2034, which adds another $2,500. So you're going to pay off rental 3 in 8 more months, rental 4 in 6 more months, rental 5 in 5 more months. And ultimately, your 10th rental is going to be paid off 3 years from when you first paid off your first rental. So by 2036, you're going to have 10 free and clear rentals worth approximately $3.5 million to your net worth and $25,000 a month coming in revenue from those rentals. $2,500-ish per rental, 10 rentals. That's $25,000 just in rentals. And oh, by the way, at this point in time, you still have that $350 a month coming in from the owner financing portfolio that we built.
Right.
That's still $14,000 a month that hasn't run out yet.
So before, and maybe now I'm like, are you just like, is this one of those trickery things?
This is not trick. This is straight up.
And I don't mean trickery, but like, haha, surprise.
Right.
Because we're talking about $14,000 to begin with, and now you're talking about $39,000.
Yep.
And this over here, that's more than 14.
Because
you're adding everything together and stirring the pot?
What we're doing is we are building a machine within our goal date time, right? Our machine must produce our goal dollar amount for us, adjusted. So I want to only work for 10 years.
Okay. So you're talking about so $14,000 today money is $39,000.
No, $10,000 today money is $14,000 10 years
10
from
years
now.
from now.
So let me finish out this example. I think I'll explain it to you.
My brain's broken.
So we're going to, over this next 10 years, I don't want to work. After my goal date, I don't want to work anymore.
Got it.
Okay? So at that goal date, I need $14,000 of passive income coming in. So that is what we're doing.
That's purely livable, eatable.
That's my goal. That says I'm willing to retire.
And that's not more money to put back in the machine. That's Grant Kemp, Ryan Harper, pocket money, and not going towards a business.
So what that says is that in 10 years, we need a minimum of $14,000 coming in for us to feel comfortable. So let's build a machine. We build the machine, we get that minimum at 10 years. And we're going to retain that $14,000 that we wanted. In this example, you see, like we said, we wanted to retire in 10 years, which would be 2028 at this point in time. Well, it's going to take till 2036 before I'm going to allow you to accept any of the cash flow from any of these rentals. Okay, so we're going to live on your retirement money, that $14,000, for another 8 years.
So we're going back to the paying down. I was paying attention to that part. We're taking that money. So you're using the same model as when you have excess $350 per property, you're using it to pay down debt and other stuff. Same thing with the rentals.
Right.
But instead of taking any income from that, you're putting all that back to
all
paying.
of that back to paying them. Because why? We have our $14,000 a month. That's what we wanted. Right?
So even though you're getting more, stay the course.
Stay the course. Don't.
And use that to get there faster.
Exactly.
Or get there on the target date.
Because what we need is we need to never not be making $14,000 a month.
Right.
So what we want is we get that $14,000 in 10 years. Then we need to pay off all of our rentals so that by the time our owner financing deals start dropping off, because we're going to be losing this income, that $14,000 that we originally had, that'll be falling off. We'll be losing that as these 30-year mortgages fall off. So by the time all of those are gone, I want my rentals to be bringing in at least $14,000. So the consequence of that's pretty cool is that there is going to be an overlap period where you're actually making a ton of money from both sources for a shorter period of time. And during that period, heck yeah, man, go get you that Lambo. That's when you can go spend exorbitantly and have a little bit of fun with that. So here's what those dollar amounts look like. In 2040, and we'll end up with this, in 2040, that's 30 years, I'm sorry, that is 22 years from now, because that's when your first underlying lien will drop off. Our typical owner finance sub 2 deal has about 22 years left on it. So that's the first point in time where we will start getting more cash flows in. In 2040, our cash flow will be up to $40,600 using this model. And you'll notice because of our underlying liens dropping off, after we've already paid off our rentals, after we don't need to be doing any more debt buy down because we're done with our debt buy down period, we've done what we need to do. That's going to continue up until we have a pinnacle in 2047, $52,000 a month. This machine that was built to only bring us $14,000 a month is going to, by accident, eventually be bringing us $52,000 a month. Ultimately, that number will start going down because our 30-year mortgages will start dropping off. Okay, that's what happens for the next several years.
And this is where everybody's like, see, I told you, the 30-year, that's why rentals are so much better, because the 30-year,
right.
You don't make money anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, darn.
I know, yeah. So eventually those do start dropping off until about 2057, that's when our final 30-year mortgage is dropping off, because that's 30 years away from the date that we retired. Ultimately, you're going to be left with an income of $28,000 a month coming in solely from your rental income. So that is how, off of 10 rentals, you can be completely retired, making $28,000 a month, almost double what most of you wanted to make. But again, time has passed, so there's going to be more depreciation. That $28,000 buying power is it's not as huge as it sounds right now. But we're keeping you to your goal number in a very, very achievable manner. Not easy, but achievable.
So let's get into the mechanics of everything real quick. But before we get there, we got a lot of people watching on Facebook, a lot of people watching on YouTube. Please jump in the comment section of, hey, where you're watching from. We want to know where you're from. What market you're in, what are you doing business in, and what are your goals? What are your goals for 2019? When do you want to retire? We kind of opened up with this about earlier of how much money do you want to make per month? Some of us 10, some of us 4, some of us 300, whatever. But I would like for everybody to participate, because one thing about these live shows, both being on Facebook and YouTube, is the ability to have a conversation, to have a dialogue, to have that engagement. So YouTube, Facebook, even on the podcast, please, chime in.
Absolutely.
So what I meant by the mechanics of it, and we addressed this earlier, not addressed, but we talked about it, is we're only talking about 4 houses a month.
A year.
A year. Yeah. Thank you. Month, year, same thing. But yeah, so 4 houses a year. That's 1 house a quarter. Say you're working at a Starbucks, making, $10, $12 an hour, and if I'm working at Starbucks, how can I implement this business?
That's a great question, right? So if that's your goal, if your goal is like what we talked about, you're cool with the slow play, you want to be retired in 10 years. And by the way, let me just say, I support the number of 10 years. I think that you should be looking at a 10-year goal. I think it's a little scarier and a little bit less achievable when people start saying, oh, I want all this money in 2 years. Absolutely can happen. There's a handful of people that works for, right? If we want realistic results, let's kind of push out a little bit longer. Now, the Starbucks worker, somebody who may not have any capital to get into a deal, that's cool. I didn't have any capital to get into deals. My first 50 houses I bought with $0 out of my back pocket, and that's what we kind of lead up to in all of these other episodes of Grant Teach Me Something, is how you can do that. Today is kind of a culmination. This season, what we wanted to do is we wanted to take you step by step, right? What is subject to? What is owner financing? How can you employ that? What are some things that you need to, right? We want to build you up to where ultimately you can look at all that knowledge and look at today's episode and be like, well, holy crap, I can totally do that.
And same thing with Lara, Hey, I have $1 million portfolio. Gave her a shout out earlier from doing the techniques learned here.
Yeah.
Angel has a quick question. I have a house that I bought from someone by owner financing. My monthly payment is $668, rent in the area. Wait. Okay. There's just not commas. Okay. My monthly payment is $668. Rent in the area is $1,000. Bought at $95,000. House is worth $130,000. What should I do to cash out? Can I finance to a buyer?
Absolutely. That's a great candidate for a wraparound buyer. He said he bought it subject to?
He bought it. Owner financed to somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
So say you own the house and I bought it from you as a owner finance.
Yeah,
deal.
You can absolutely wrap that. And I recommend you go back and watch our episode on wrap mortgages to find out how that side of things works. But yeah, you're going to be making like about $350 a month in cash flow, because rent was $1,000 and it was $660, right? So that's almost $350. To thank you for verifying my giving me some authority on what I said, where the average is $350. And then you've got some good equity there. That is totally the type of deal that you start this plan with.
Right. So let's see what else we got. John, I'm in Austin. My goal is to raise enough money to pay my debt, but most of all, get into Grant Kemp's mentorship program. Ooh,
awesome.
Nice.
Hey, mentorship. Who does Grant Kemp does mentoring? Thank you for that segue. Hey, if you like how I teach and you're into this kind of education. So this, for instance, I am filming currently a course for CreativeCashFlow.com called Road to Retirement, where I break down in detail every small step of this. This is a 1 hour kind of summary of what we're doing. But if you want a little bit more on that, or you want a little bit more on other kinds of education, check me out at CreativeCashFlow.com. I do personal mentoring. There's an online academy, and the price is going up in the new year. So if you've been considering it, get in now, because again, I'm raising the price in the new year, and I would love to have you guys in there. And I do a weekly Q&A every Monday night where I answer all your questions.
Here's a great question for you. It's a great owner finance question. John Alvarez, what is the average down payment you have to put in per each property acquired on owner financed.
On the acquiring of the down payment, I don't do down payments. What I will do, like I don't give the seller anything unless they've got a lot of equity and there's plenty of room for that.
Because you do straight up sub 2.
Yeah, straight up sub 2 is what we want. If, especially like think of somebody who's in a foreclosure proceeding. The option is either they sell you the house and you catch them up, which is money that you're going to have to come out of pocket, and that may be kind of what you're asking for, and I'll address that. But I'm not going to give that seller any money on top of that. What do? They screwed up. If they don't have equity. I mean, if they have like whatever, $80,000 worth of equity.
He sounds so heartless. He's like, screw them. They screwed up.
Well, but the option
is
either they sell me the house or they go to foreclosure.
Right.
What we're offering them is not having a foreclosure on their record. That's what they get from me, not dollar amount.
But this goes back to how vast real estate investing is, because the sub 2 model, like Daniel and I are taking out a property, I think next week. I don't know. It's been at title for months on end, cleaning up title, yay! But it's a pre-foreclosure property. Someone like yourself, your strategy is, I'm taking it sub 2, you get nothing. The only thing you get is, not the only thing, but the thing you get is you don't have a foreclosure on your record. Mm-hmm. We're doing a cash for keys type situation, so we're giving the people money to walk away so we can get a good deal.
If I do that, it's typically $1,500.
Yeah, and we're doing like 10 or 15 or something. I don't remember what the top of my head. But we bought a house last year where the deal was brought to us, the numbers a little bit off, and the only way it made sense was to restructure the wholesale deal into a sub 2 deal because the contract was at 110 when it should have been at 95.
Gotcha.
And the underlying lien was like 88.
Mm-hmm. But that's a great lesson there that you can buy at higher rates with sub 2. So again, watch the videos to learn about how that.
So just to not to leave everybody in the dust, is on that situation, whatever the difference was I don't know, 22,000. The seller got 22,000 at closing. So we got a second lien or second private capital come in to give us the 22 to pay off that difference, the equity position, and then we had the sub 2 deal at the 88 or 82, whatever it was.
Right. So those are both great examples. And if your question was how much cash do you typically have to put up to make a deal work, totally depends. I cap at $250,000 ARVs, and if I look at the average of what it costs to get a deal done, you're somewhere in that $25,000 to $35,000 range. On average, but you can get lending to do that. Like when I talk about I bought my first 50 houses without any money out of my own pocket, it's because I got somebody else to put up cash when we needed cash, or I was able to leverage option periods to get that kind of stuff coming in there.
So, Aaron, thank you, Aaron Malone. You're a mean one, Mr. Grant. Anyway, there was another one here from Hazel. It wasn't necessarily an owner finance, but it is relevant. She was asking, how do you determine how much to raise rents on your how do you calculate how much you should raise rent every year? Yeah,
I mean, it's one of those things, and a better landlord would answer that question better than I will. But basically, I comp the property. If we're looking at rents, I'll comp it and see what the rent rate is over in that area. But usually it's like 5 or 6% that the rent rate should be.
And then
4 to 6%.
Tracy Ross gave us a lot of love. She said, "This is the best content on REI I've ever seen."
Oh, that's awesome.
Thanks for breaking it down with a lot of fire emojis.
That's awesome. Thank you.
There's a couple more good ones. There's a lot of people commenting, so thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for the participation. We love it. And if you've got questions ever in the future, tag me at Grant Kemp. At Creative Cash Flow. I think it's at CCF Mentors on YouTube, and I'd be happy, or at CreativeCashFlow.com. I can't remember what our tag is.
And Tracy, just because you gave us that love, I'm going to say this, your goals out loud to make it concrete. For her 2019, she wants to do 6 properties to owner finance, Bird Dog, 6 apartment complexes minimum.
Excellent.
Go get them.
And my question would be, did you come to that by backing into it from what you wanted on retirement or not? And if you didn't, I'd really like for you to sit down and back into it from what you'd like at retirement, because otherwise what happens, and I can't remember, it was a beautiful visualization and its interaction, but he talks about the captain of a ship who's in the middle of the ocean. Man, everything's going great. My sails are up perfectly. The water is, I'm in clean water. I've got everything going exactly how we want it to go. This ship is working fantastically. And you ask him, well, where are you going? And he's like, oh, I don't know. My compass is broken, right? if you don't know where you're headed, everything can be going great, and then you find out, oh, wait, that wasn't what I should have been doing, right, to get to the goal that I want. So I really encourage you to start from the end and work your way back into it.
And then an alternative to that completely negates what Grant just said was, if you know you built a great ship, go faster. You'll hit land at some point.
There you go. I like it.
Aaron, hey guys, I'm in Granbury and soon will relocate to Wichita Falls. My goal for 2019 is to acquire one owner finance or a rental per quarter. Great goal. And she's an RN who started wholesaling in May this year.
That's cool.
And trying to learn all this info as fast as I can. Thanks
job.
for the good info. Subtle plug, pat back on us. This is a great resource for you. The Propelio Academy, propelio.com/academy. Grant did a monster class on sub 2, owner finance, everything. Honestly, a lot of information you can get from us is go to propelio.tv or go to the Facebook, go to the Grant Teach Me Something, watch episode 1 from 2017. That's going to be weird. Next month when we do Grant Teach You Something in 2019,
Yeah.
like, man, do you remember we started this in 2017? Whoa. Anyway, but thanks for joining us. Thanks for being a part of our little world.
Absolutely. And so here's what we'll do is we'll wrap up. We got one more little break. Let's get some more questions, and I have a very special announcement at the end on the other side of the break, so stick with us. Because I'd like to chat with you guys, give you a big announcement. Or big announcement, it's not, whatever. But
Is it big to you? Then it's
big to me. Thank you,
big,
Ryan.
sir.
Thank you, Ryan. So catch us on the other side of the break. We'll be right back. Thank you guys for joining us back here. Again, just as you saw a second ago, Propelio is such an amazing platform. I've literally let my MLS Access lapse. I don't have MLS Access anymore because I've just stopped using it. I use Propelio for all of my comps, for our own. At first it was just a tool. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And then it's like, man, this is a freaking sweet piece of software. So really encourage you guys. Again, we do this, we enjoy this, we love helping you guys out, but ultimately that's the business is Propelio. And if you need a CRM, you need lead lists, you need MLS access, you need websites that already have kind of your SEO stuff taken care of for you, check out propelio.com and click to join. It will be very worth it to you.
I don't know how to segue out of a pitch.
Let's.
Anyway, going back to the comments, Jamal, I've never seen you in the comments, so thank you so much for joining. He has a great, give him some advice here. I have 2 rentals paid off. Should I sell and hold the cash for a slower market in the next few years, or buy more, or refi from them rentals and buy more rentals?
Yeah, those are great questions that I can't answer in a minute and a half. That's something that really is going to take some analysis on your side to figure out what your goals are. Again, that's why I always point to what's the end here and back yourself back into it, because every option that you gave is great for a scenario.
Yeah, and here's the thing is there's a lot of, especially with the end of the year, everybody talks about the market trends and what's the market going to do next year. Even on these shows at Iron Hills, we talk about a market slowdown, a market correction. And what happens after the market correction, after that conversation? Then they were talking about it was an inverse yield rate. And then the next week, guess what? Mortgage rates are the lowest they've been in 3 months. Because before, mortgage rates are going up and now they're down. There was an article 2 days ago how there's over 1,000 houses sitting in Las Vegas that are empty and ready to sell. And then there was an article this morning about how houses are flying off the market. At the end of the day, no one has a perfect crystal ball. Fear drives a market. Will the market correct? Will it crash? Will it keep going? No one really knows. All you can do is play it safe and follow your strategy and follow your risk tolerance.
Right, and that risk tolerance is the most important part about it. And that's the advice I would give you is just, I'll put it this way, keeping the rentals free and clear and continuing to move on is going to be kind of your most safe route. and you get gradually more and more aggressive from there. Refinancing would be kind of my next position on that kind of thing, is if you can take out enough debt on the properties to buy a bunch of properties that are going to help you in bulk buy down the debt from everybody together, that might be worth it, right? But that's taking away from your net worth. That's taking away, and it's a little bit more aggressive. Selling them is super aggressive. You better have some place to put that money without spending it on a new car, because you've just lost at that point in time. You've got a depreciating asset rather than an appreciating asset. So just kind of take your risk tolerance and what you're betting on for that next year. I've taken loans out on properties that I have, and that's a very aggressive move, and I don't know if it'll pay off or not, right? And so we just have to see how those things go, but you've got to decide on your risk tolerance.
And just to end on that, not end, but to jump back on that, is typically when there is a market slowdown, owner finance is the way to go.
Oh yeah, owner financing is, I'll steal Mitch Stevens' phrase of, we're not saying this is a recession-proof strategy, but if there was a recession-proof strategy, it would be owner financing.
And I'll do 2 more comments. Richard Richard Wilkin on YouTube. This channel has the best REI info on YouTube, not just rah-rah or war stories like other channels, but actual usable content.
I appreciate hearing that, because I too hate war stories.
Well, and on that is, we really try to be as value-driven and not ego-driven as possible, and really provide actionable steps. If you haven't seen the 3-part series Daniel just did over the past couple weeks on mobile homes, he literally did a 10-hour course over the course of 3 weeks on mobile home investing. Cool. There's another couple. Thank you. And I will leave on a comment from your pal, Mr. Thomas. Anyone gonna tell Grant his ears are on backwards?
They are not on backwards. That is funny, because we actually talked about that. So I'm gonna pull out my nerd card here and tell you guys that I have traveled all over the United States to go to nerd conventions, because my wife is a giant nerd, and she has not but many pairs of elf ears that go on your actual ear for when she dresses up in cosplay. And I will say, elf ears go backwards. Plus, the Velcro's in the back.
And on that, and hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, but because you did address her as a nerd, nerd in the most negative way possible.
Right.
Like,
no, it's pretty negative.
She's the most gorgeous nerd of all time.
Oh, she's phenomenal. She's an amazing woman. She's way too good for me. And if you would like to meet her, here is my segue into my big announcement. Hey, look, it's Christmas time, guys. It's Christmas time. Christmas time. And I don't want to glaze over it without addressing that, right? It is Christmas, and Christmas can be great, and Christmas can be hard. It is something that I understand there are many people out there that have broken relationships with their family, or families out of town, or whatever that might be, and Christmas can be a hard time. Maybe you've lost somebody that you loved recently, or not even recently, and it just is a hard, difficult.
Maybe you have friends that it was their birthday yesterday, and you didn't wish them a happy birthday.
Maybe you do. I wonder who that is. Happy birthday, Ryan.
Thank you, Grant.
I love you.
Oh.
So, with another important birthday would be the birth of Jesus Christ, our Savior.
But let's be honest, this guy.
So Christmas, back to that. So if you are in a situation where you don't have a place to go for Christmas, or you just don't want to go to that place that you do have to go for Christmas, or Christmas is a hard time, or whatever that might be, or whatever it is, reach out to me. My wife and I would love to open our doors to you this Saturday evening. We're going to host a Christmas party for, and this is, nobody was going to DM me until I say this, but originally this Christmas party was going to be for all of her model friends and photographers. And so I don't know how many models are going to be there. I know photographers are going to be there, but we're going to be doing kind of a joint thing, similar on both sides. But yeah, I'd love to have you. So if you're in that, where you'd love to come out, please DM me. I'll get you my address, and then we'll see you on Saturday for a little potluck Christmas dinner.
We will see you. As far as the end of the year wrapping up, we've had a great year at Propelio.
A great year at Propelio.
Thank you. It's a great year at Propelio. Thank you so much for watching all the content, coming to all the events, engaging in all the stuff that we're doing. One thing that we're going to start doing more of, and if you follow us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, we're going to be a lot more active out there. We found a way to actually be on all those channels. So follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, follow us on LinkedIn. And if you see an article that we post out there, engage with it. So we're going to be trying to pump out more and more and more content, not just the shows, but market driving type of information to keep you informed.
Right.
I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, we're going to be the one-stop shop of all things real estate investing knowledge. That's just not doable. I mean, you got to be like a CNN or a Fox News of real estate.
What does it even mean?
I don't know. But anyway, as far as plugging Propelio.com, like Grant was saying earlier, if you need leads, if you need comps, if you need websites, check us out. If we're not in your market, this is my biggest ask. If you really like this content, obviously give us likes, give us some comments, give us some shares. But the realist, gosh, we cannot talk. The biggest thing that we need, if we're not in your market, we need introductions to investor-friendly real estate brokers. Because the way Propelio comes to your market is we partner with a local broker to get access so we can provide MLS data to our subscribers. So if you're in, I don't know, what's the city in North Dakota?
I have no idea. I'm geographically idiotic.
Wyoming. If you're in Montana, is that a city or a state? If you're in a geographical location that Propelio is not, and you want us to be there, fine, and you're a broker, hit me up.
Yeah.
We would love to be there and have a conversation. And that's basically my pitch.
And this is how I want to end the year. Is I just want to end the year thanking you guys for making 2018 such an awesome year. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for showing up on a weekly basis. Thank you for tagging us in other comments in other groups and looking for information and spreading the word. We can't ask for anything more from that. This has been such an awesome opportunity to build a community with you, and to see that fingerprint and to see you guys out there making things happen, to have all the feedback of people who learned about traction through me and have changed their lives and businesses from it, and whatever that might be. That kind of stuff means so much to me, to get the feedback like Laura said, like, hey, I was watching these things and went from nothing to having $1 million portfolio. Thank you. That stuff fires us up. And how cool is that we're all a part of that community, that you guys in the comments are able to help each other answer questions, to communicate out offline, to maybe help do deals, that kind of thing. And we need to blow that out in 2019 and keep that going. So thank you for being on this front wave of the change of what real estate investing education is, because we are changing that. We are pushing that status quo. We are changing what people expect out of that. And it's been the response that you guys have had and the ability that y'all have had to make this into a successful thing for yourselves that makes this successful for everybody. So please continue to spread the word in that way.
And I just want to end on giving a special shout out to Mr. Daniel Moore, putting all this thing together and letting us do this. And also, he actually texted me twice. Well, he texted me and phone called me to say happy birthday.
All right, so if you didn't say happy birthday to Ryan, go to Ryan's Facebook, give him a happy birthday. Guys, we love you. Thank you so much for being here this year, and we will see you in the first week of the new year. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Be safe. Use Uber. Don't drink and drive.
Don't forget Iron Heels tomorrow, Heels off Friday, and maybe Roughneck on Thursday. We don't know yet.
Awesome. All right, guys, we'll see you next
time.
year.
See you next year. 2019. Woo!